My name is Anne McElhenney.
And I'm Phelim McAleer.
And welcome to the Anne and Phelim Scoop.
Yes.
We have a very packed show this week.
Yes, we do indeed.
Lots of news about Hunter Biden. Phelim, what's happening with Hunter Biden?
Well, there are claims that his iCloud.
Maybe his Clued.
Has been hacked. And there are all these new videos coming out. We sort out the truth from the fiction. The videos are genuine, but we tell you where they're from and give you a little taste of them. And we also look at Hunter Biden, the special privilege of being Hunter Biden, and how Venice, one particular part of Venice, was miraculously cleaned up with homeless people when Hunter Biden was living there. And now we show you what it looks like now. And the Biden privilege is loud and clear.
Incredible. And we have big news about the Gosnell podcast, which has been going gangbusters. But we need your help to make that continue to happen. We'll tell you more in a moment.
Yes, that's the Gosnell True Crime podcast. And the story that reveals the dark side of overturning Roe v. Wade, all the demons that come out. The story that has been doing the rounds, traveling around the world, turns out to be a hoax, but of course it does. You know, and we always tell you, the stories that always suit the left agenda to a T, they always turn out to be hoaxes. And
you have a very an incredibly interesting interview today. This is a really, really great interview about an extraordinary similarity between the Johnny Depp case and Clarence Thomas.
Yes, Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice and enemy of Roe versus Wade, and Johnny Depp, international rock and pop and film star and icon. What do they have in common? We discuss what they have in common, and we also warn Mr. Depp, be careful what's coming down the track.
Yeah, and there's a new definition of green energy, and we have a roundup of another few obnoxious stories from the last few days that we want to bring you at the end of the show. But we're starting with Hunter Biden and more Hunter Biden madness. Phelim, what has been happening? Well, what are we finding out about?
Let's just play one of those clips that have just dropped at the weekend there.
So I just weighed the bag. It's 2.06.
2.07 without the bag.
Yes, there's some craziness there.
That's the first son there.
Yes, that's the first son.
Can you imagine if that was either Jared Kushner, by the way, or Don Jr.? Can you imagine if that was Donald Trump's son or his son-in-law?
We'd never be hearing the end of it.
We'd never hear the end of it.
So just to let you know, these are not new videos, as in they were not recorded last week. You see that Hunter Biden's iCloud has been hacked. Look, it's not his present. These headlines are very misleading. It's not his current iCloud that's been hacked. It's not his current iPhone that's been hacked. These are videos from the hard drive that were first released in 2020. 2020 during the last election campaign. Now, these videos were not released then. They were in a part of his hard drive that contained deleted material. They also were in a part where the backup to his iPhone, etc. So these are old videos, 2 or 3 years. They show him just to be as weird and strange and privileged. And there's, you saw him measuring out cocaine with a woman of the night. This is so involved in all sorts of criminal activity, but it's not new, as in it didn't happen last week, but it's new. People have not seen these before because they've been recovered from the hard drive, and I have that on the best authority.
But there is news about Hunter Biden. There is news about his privilege, by the way, that hasn't been reported by anybody except for us.
Yes, so
and it's an incredible story.
Here, have a look. This is when we confronted Hunter Biden at his house.
Hello?
Hello?
I'm looking for Hunter.
We're looking for Mr. Biden. I'm here to ask him some questions. I'm a journalist. Who are you, sir?
I work with the Secret Service.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to be taking any questions.
Well, I'm not asking you questions. I want to ask Mr. Biden questions.
He's not going to take any visitors today.
Look at the streets around his house. Look at how, as you say, Phelim, really pristine, which is unusual in Venice, right? Because we have a lot of homeless people. So look at how lovely,
that was his $20,000 a month Venice Canals home, paid for, by the way, by Kevin Morris, who came out to Serbia to spy on the My Son Hunter movie. The My Son Hunter movie just gets better and better every time. These weird new videos are released.
And just on that, by the way, just to say that we will have really big news on the Hunter Biden movie
Very
soon. We're so excited
Yes.
to tell you the news of that. And you know, I know you seem to have heard that for a really long time, but honestly, I think you're going to be really pleased with what we're going to say. But on this story then,
Yes.
so you saw those pristine streets. Let's have a look at what it looks like now.
Hunter has moved out. Hunter has moved out. Let's go and have a look at the videos of what it looks outside that house now.
So isn't it lovely to be rich and privileged? Isn't it lovely to be the son of the President of the United States? Because you really are not going to be getting the same treatment as a regular person.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of people who have homes in this area in Venice of California, including ourselves in Venice in California. And, you know, lots of people would love to have the privilege of having the Secret Service come and get rid of all the homeless, which is obviously what must have happened. Because now...
We don't know. Maybe the homeless,
as
a mark of respect to the president, a mark of respect to the president, maybe they just decided, sir, we humbly beg your pardon, sir, and we want to move away from your residence, sir, because we understand, sir, that we would defile your pristine image.
It's nice to be a Biden. Let's just put it that way. It's definitely nice to be a Biden because the rules just for the regular folk do not apply to you. Moving on. So just to say, because we've got so much going on today in the program, but basically the Gosnell podcast, the Gosnell True Crime podcast, which is called Serial Killer, a true crime podcast,
Yes.
and you can find it by going to in Google, basically going to serialkillerpod.com, serialkillerpod.com.
Or you could go to the podcast app on your iPhone, press there, and you'll see it there. It's called Serial Killer, a true crime podcast. Yeah, it's going from strength to strength. It was up to number 11 last week, all over the weekend. It's slipping back, so we need your help. Look, the forces of darkness wanted to kill the Gosnell story at the time. They killed the Gosnell story whilst he was killing himself. They killed the Gosnell story when the trial was on. They don't want this story to get out there. So we want you to go there. You can leave a review. That would be great. But we want you to follow the podcast. Go to the icon.
You can hit, you'll see three little lines up at the side of the podcast. Three little dots. And you just hit them and it'll say follow. It costs nothing. It's all free. And if you're having difficulty managing the podcast app, just ask any young person in the neighborhood to help you out on that, because young people seem to know how to do it. But I have to say, no matter what age you are, they do make this a little bit difficult. So go to the podcast, give us a rating. Don't worry about writing a review. Very important to give us a rating, a 5-star rating.
It's important to follow.
And it's very important to follow and then to share. These are the things we're asking you to do. Please share it with everyone. So today, like I think I said to you earlier, Phelim, I think a lovely thing for all of you who are listening to, that would be a brilliant thing for us, costs you nothing, but would mean so much to us, is grab the podcast link, which is now in the show notes of everywhere you're hearing this. Grab that link and put it into your phone and text it out to 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 people that you have on your phone that you know would like it, and say to them, look, do me a favor and please subscribe to this for free. Follow this for free. Give it a rating for free. This is something that you can do for us, and it's very simple. It's free, and it would make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And just to let you know what people are saying about the podcast, you know, loads and loads of people. You're going to have to do this. As you can see, my arm is still in an awful bloody way. But anyway, what are we going to do? And I subscribed to your podcast a week ago after I heard you being interviewed. Each one of your podcasts was riveting, as hard as some of the information was to hear. It must be heard across America. God bless you both and keep up your epic journalism. I'm looking forward to more coming soon.
Yeah, and then Nestor Matos 4 days ago. It's so refreshing to see the dynamic duo put it all out for all to see. Thanks a million times over. And then Beverly Weatherly. This is amazing. Truth is Stranger Fiction. Great work from Anne and Phil.
Hello, Phil.
Hello, Phil.
People need to hear this. And then somebody whose name, I can't work that out, Jeff, I think it is. This podcast needs to be aired around the world. It's a perfect companion to the post-Roe world that's already here. Then Dutch Doll 4 days ago. I've listened to 5 episodes, and through episode 4 and 5 are distressing. It's unfortunately the truth. God bless you for bringing it into the wider audience after the movie and the book. Louise Taylor has written, "This truth needs to be heard." Thanks so much, Louise. Howard Pennington. I was very inspired by this podcast. Yeah. Carol, Nowinski, who is a friend of ours. She's written, I mean, I've seen her name many times. She's a fan of our work. Excellent work, great research and investigation, no nonsense with Anne and Phelim. You know you're getting real, honest and timely news. So we've had loads of those reviews. As I said, as Phelim says, the reviews, we love them, by the way, but really the really important thing is to follow and to give us a rating. Give us a 5-star rating, because we have people in there giving us low ratings to bring our star rating down. This is what people do, you know. That's the kind of thing they do.
They don't want the truth to be out there.
And talking about Roe and talking about abortion and talking about the truth. So you'll all know that Joe Biden had this incredible story that he made a whole lot of, a massive story about a 10-year-old from Ohio, a rape victim who was forced to travel across state lines to get an abortion.
It was originally in the Indianapolis Star. Just to remind you that the story is about a 10-year-old rape victim, allegedly a 10-year-old rape victim who was forced to travel across state lines to get an abortion because it wasn't available in one state and she had to go to another state, and how distressing this would be. And you know, a great story if you're the White House and you want to push that ending Roe v. Wade is going to have horrifying consequences. It was funny. I read it and I thought that needs a lot of sourcing. That just seems like quite the story. But
it didn't. But I think an amazing point is that the president used this story without fact checking it, without making sure it was true. And he said in the White House, "Imagine being that little girl." He said, "I'm serious. Just imagine being that little girl. 10 years old." So he went ahead, used that for propaganda purposes, and now we find out from the Washington Post, no less, by the way, who have fact-checked it. And they know how, because I kind of thought when I heard that first, how do you fact-check this? Very, very, very easily. Because the story had been reported by a medical professional, by an OBGYN, and the OBGYN had told this story and she had heard it from another person, a very reliable source. Here's the thing. If that story was true, you are required by law to report it to the police. And we know from the Washington Post said, so far, and this is up until right now that we're recording this, no one has been arrested. So there was no proof that this was true.
Can I just say, the story never needed fact-checking. The story should never have been published because the only source, the single source, was an Indianapolis OBGYN, Dr. Caitlin Bernard, who is a pro-abortion activist and advocate.
Yes.
So therefore, the story should never have been run from the single source who was an activist and advocate for a certain side.
Yeah.
Just never should have been run. The president, isn't a journalistic fact checker, by the way. So I'm not saying he's justified in reporting it, but the original sin here is from the newspaper and other journalism outlets who did not express skepticism when they saw the story, because they know that story would never have got into their own newspapers on such a single source. But that's the modern journalism. Maybe it would have. Modern journalism now is Greenpeace says something, pro-abortion activists say something, therefore it's true. There's no attempt to fact check a story that's too good to be true.
Yeah, if they like the story, let it be. Unbelievable. And now we're coming to the interview that Phelim did earlier with our friend Mark Paoletta, and this is really fascinating, by the way, about the similarities between the Johnny Depp Heard case and Clarence Thomas.
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce?
Yeah. So Mark Paoletta is a lawyer. He represents people like Project Veritas. He was a lawyer in, as you'll see, the Bush White House. He was a lawyer, Bush 41 White House. He was a lawyer in the Office of Budget and Management on the Trump White House. But he's a multifaceted and multi-talented individual. One of the parts of his life that he remembers with much pride is bringing Justice Thomas through the confirmation hearings, and he learned a lot, and he was there right in the room. And
he's a bit like, funny enough, it's like a lot of people actually, because he was working in a professional capacity helping Clarence Thomas through the confirmation hearings. And I think, and we know Mark very, very well. He's a dear friend, and we know that it was life-changing. It was a life-changing experience for him. And of course, our very dearly departed friend, Andrew Breitbart, was changed utterly. His politics were changed utterly by watching the Clarence Thomas confirmation.
Very interesting.
He went from being a liberal, he was down in, what was the college called? In New
Tulane.
In Tulane, and he was like real cool, and he was a big liberal. And he started watching this story, and he started watching Clarence Thomas every day through the trial, through these by the way, it felt like a trial, these confirmation hearings. And Andrew basically said, he's looking at it and he said, not in my name. That was
Yeah.
like, I always remember that.
Yes.
And he was so clear that was the, defining moment politically for him and for many, many Americans.
And that's the reason I did this interview, was because at the time, everyone believed Clarence Thomas and didn't believe Anita Hill, just like they believe Johnny Depp now and don't believe Amber Heard. But let's go over to the interview. Let's not spoil the interview. Let's go over to the interview now with Mark Paoletta and
hear what he has to say.
So we're joined now by Mark Paoletta, a great friend of the program, has been on before. Mark has many talents, and the reason we're talking to him today is he worked as a lawyer in the Bush 41 White House, worked extensively on the Clarence Thomas nomination process, has just edited a book, Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words. And as I said in the intro, watching the Johnny Depp trial, Amber Heard trial, it struck me the similarities with the Clarence Thomas situation and how people who support Johnny Depp should know what has happened in the past, so that in the future there's no surprises for them. It may not strike you as a natural connection, Johnny Depp and Clarence Thomas, but I want to tease that out with Mark here because he's the expert on Clarence Thomas, and I want to try and bring the two together. So, Mark, for those who don't remember those hearings, tell us, first of all, what was the atmosphere like? Was the nation watching the Clarence Thomas hearings just like they were watching the Johnny Depp? And what were those hearings about?
Sure. So Clarence Thomas was nominated by President Bush 41 on July 1st. He was announced on July 1st, 1991. And so there was this long slog of a summer where the left, the Democrats came after Thomas, the interest groups, with lots of allegations. But by the end of the summer, and it did obviously capture people's attention. People were paying attention, but sort of in that kind of background sort of aspect. But at the end of the hearings in September 10th was when he had his first set of hearings. After that is when Anita Hill came forward on September 23rd and filed a statement with the Senate Judiciary Committee that alleged that Clarence Thomas, when she worked for him back in 1981 and 82, she didn't call it sexual harassment in her statement, but for all intents and purposes, it was this. He was talking about pornographic films and animals and rape scenes and that sort of stuff from pornographic films, and pressuring her to date him. So that is the allegation she made in her written statement. And then she was interviewed by the FBI, said essentially the same thing. And we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, Phelan, we could back up. In the hearings that everyone remembers, when she testifies before the nation and the entire nation, right? That's when everyone comes to a standstill. Everyone watches those hearings. That is when, for the first time, she comes up with these stories that have now kind of, echoed down the hallways of history. That the Long Dong Silver reference, the pubic hair on a Coke can, all these crazy stories that she came up with in the hearing. So it's important, and in that history of recounting it, that her first statement was, much different than her final statement. And when she was challenged on it during the hearings, she lied because Senator Specter, who was questioning her, said, "Why didn't you tell the FBI? Why didn't you, when you're in your original statement, why didn't you include all of these additional stories? Because they're markedly different." And she said, "Oh, well, the FBI told me I didn't have to go into these stories if I was uncomfortable." And literally, FBI agents who interviewed her swore out affidavits on the spot that said that's a lie. We told her if she was uncomfortable talking about any of this stuff. The male agent, it was a male and female agent that went to interview her during the investigation, said the male agent would step out. So they contradicted her story about why she didn't tell all of this.
That explanation doesn't make sense on the idea that an FBI agent would say, you're alleging a crime or almost criminal behavior of a Supreme Court judge nominee, but if you're uncomfortable with it, you don't have to say it. I mean, that doesn't pass the smell test. So she, for people who don't remember, try and sum up just how much the nation was transfixed by these hearings. I was in Ireland at the time. I was in the United Kingdom. So I remember them. Tell people, you know, I think it was very similar to the Johnny Depp, the way TikTok and social media really just was dominated with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial.
So remember, 1991, you don't have, I think Fox News had just started. So cable was in its infancy. There wasn't social media. There wasn't, 24/7 internet. And so people watched their television. And literally, right, I'm just about 60 years old. Anyone of that age back then watched those hearings. Everyone kind of knew where they were, what they were doing. They were driving across country, they were driving somewhere, and they were transfixed to the TV and the radio, right? Obviously, the radio was carrying it. I think Britt Hume said he was listening to them at a Washington Redskins football game. The Sunday session, I think. And so everyone watched those hearings. And by the end of those hearings, it was 58-24. The American people believed Clarence Thomas. And only 26% of women believed Anita Hill. So that means 58%, believed that Anita Hill was lying and was not telling the truth. And that's because they watched those hearings. They watched Clarence Thomas testify. They watched Anita Hill testify. There were probably 12 women testified in support of Clarence Thomas, right? Not a single person came forward, okay, who testified in support of Anita Hill. And when you have sexual harassment allegations, it is always the case that there are scores of people that come forward. Think of Bill Cosby, right? Think of just Matt Lauer. Think of anyone you want to think of who's been alleged on this, and it, where lots of women come forward. Not a single woman came forward to support Anita Hill, who worked with them together. And in fact, tons of women came forward to support Thomas and specifically dispute Anita Hill. In fact, when she made her allegations, she told the FBI to go interview 2 women that had worked together with her. And both of them rejected her assertions, rejected her allegations. And all of her witnesses, again, the American people making this assessment, all of her witnesses were terrible. I mean, very, very, very weak in credibility or their story. And so at the end of those hearings, and obviously people remember it for Justice Thomas kind of coming back on a Friday night and, in my view, just blowing up the Senate Judiciary Committee with his calling them out for describing it as a high-tech lynching, which is what it was. But that's those hearings. And the people transfixed, making their own assessments, not the narrative that the media has been kind of running for 30 years that has now changed it. But when people watched it and assessed the facts and the evidence, they thought she was not telling the truth by more than 2-1.
I want to get on to that in a minute. I just want to make clear, when I say the similarities between the Clarence Thomas and the Johnny Depp case, I mean, Johnny Depp was accused of domestic violence, physical abuse. Like Clarence Thomas, right? You still see reporters say this, that Clarence Thomas was accused of sexual assault or, touching or whatever. Like it was all alleged harassment, and the harassment was making jokes about pubic hairs and jokes about pornographic characters and persistently asking Anita Hill for a date. Those were the allegations, which Clarence Thomas denied. But they're not. I'm not comparing the allegations of the two people. I'm comparing. I want to compare the way the nation was transfixed, the way people looked at the evidence, looked at the witnesses, and found, and the jury both supported Johnny Depp, and then the jury of the public supported Clarence Thomas. But there's a change now. There's something I think we need to acknowledge now, is that most people now have switched, and they now believe Anita Hill. Do you know how that happened, and how can that happen to Johnny Depp?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think you're right, and it's because Justice Thomas goes on the Supreme Court, and he's a Supreme Court justice, and he's not going to, most justices wouldn't, and Justice Thomas kind of even more so is not going to get out and defend his reputation, or that he doesn't have a structure around him, a PR team, if you will, to go out and fight back, and sort of push back on what the other side is pushing. And I think that, with Thomas in particular, right, even before all this happened, the left was coming after him for his, heretical views on affirmative action, right? The left thinks that a black man has to have certain views or you're bad. So on affirmative action, they were always after him and twisting, and warping, and trying to make him into a monster. Same thing with the Anita Hill allegations. He goes on the court and there's not an infrastructure to push back. And the left that wants to make this an issue, wants to delegitimize him, wants to drive this issue as a weapon, it's constant. And it is amazing that, again, at the end of the day, I don't believe any of it, right? But it was all as Justice, as Senator Danforth, who was a senator who was very helpful in getting Justice Thomas confirmed, and Justice Thomas had worked for him in earlier in his career, said it was just dirty words. It was just, somebody talking about these movies, which is not appropriate, but that's all it was. It wasn't sexual assault. It wasn't forcing himself upon her. None of that stuff. And pressing for dates. You should be dating me, I think she was what she said. Now, again, just to go back to the facts for a second, the reason why the American people did not believe Anita Hill is she claims that this happened at the Department of Education, where she first went to work for him, right? And she was a Yale-educated lawyer. And Clarence Thomas gets a new job. He gets appointed by President Reagan to go to a completely separate agency called the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, okay, a year later. And guess what? You'd think Anita Hill would be thrilled that her sexual harasser was leaving. But no, by all accounts, she leaves and goes with him. And by all accounts, everyone who testified and women who worked with her at the time said she was so eager. She was the first one in line to go over to work with Clarence Thomas at another agency. So she follows her sexual harasser. She's a Yale-educated lawyer. So when people say people don't have a choice, this is Anita Hill, a Yale-educated lawyer that's traveling to her alleged sexual harasser's new job. Second, there were these phone logs where, she finally leaves working for Clarence Thomas. She lies about getting her new job. Clarence Thomas helped get the new job for her when she left. But after that, there was records produced that she called Justice Thomas something like 13 times. And when she lied, because she was first asked, did you ever call Justice Thomas? And she said, I would have only returned his call. But his secretary kept these detailed logs of calls that came in, and then return calls. And so there were a number of phone calls that were, hey, I'd love to see you. I'm coming into town. Can we get together? Sorry, I missed you. Here's my hotel number. Can you give me a call? So all of this evidence, when people were hearing it, they were just, this person's not telling the truth, right? So again, those numbers, 58 to 24, only 26%. These are women, right? So women, with a woman coming forward, right? Why would they not believe her if she was telling the truth? And so now you go on for 30 years, and it's just constant drumbeat. And then when it comes back up with you'll see it the most, sort of significantly when Justice Kavanaugh gets accused of all this stuff. I think, again, I don't believe any of that. But now the Thomas ones become sexual assault, right? That younger people, they've heard about this, or even the left want to reshape the Thomas ones of just these words of talking about pornographic movies. Again, no one else in history has ever accused Justice Thomas of that kind of conduct. Okay. But it gets transformed into sexual assault. And in part, Phelim, that's why.
No, I mean, I don't want to interrupt you, but actually, funny, the reason we're having this interview, the reason that inspired me was I was speaking to a waitress here in LA. She's younger than me, but she's not, she's not that young, but she doesn't remember the hearings. She's young enough not to remember the hearings. And we were talking about Johnny Depp, the Johnny Depp trial, and she was transfixed by it. And she never believed Amber. She realized right from the beginning, that there was something wrong with Amber Heard's story. And I said, it's very similar to the Clarence Thomas situation. And she turned to me and goes, you mean Clarence Thomas didn't assault Anita Hill? And I mean, she was genuine. She that's where she was coming from. So I realized that there was a similarity in so many ways in these cases in the public perception, but the public perception is diverging now. And I mean, yes, there was the left are very good. I mean, the left have done, just off the top of my head, they've done books, they've done documentaries, they've made a movie, didn't they make a TV series about Anita Hill? And that's just, I'm sure there was plays. Yeah, there were plays. So, They have photo. Anita Hill is on the Times Up commission out in Hollywood. They have made her a factual victim now, even though in the court, in the Senate hearings, the Judiciary Committee believed Clarence Thomas, and the public believed Clarence Thomas at that time. Hollywood didn't like the public's opinion, so decided to change it.
Yeah, so many things. Time's Up, right? We know she was involved with that. That's a group that was found out to be advising Andrew Cuomo on how to go after the women who were making very credible allegations against him. And again, there you go, scores of women, same type of stuff. Andrew Cuomo is just disgusting, right? But they were defending him, right? And it goes back to a little bit off topic, but when Anita Hill, after these hearings, and she becomes, this paragon of righteousness, of coming out and defending and being an advocate for stopping sexual harassment. She goes on Meet the Press with Tim Russert in 1998. This is with Bill Clinton. Okay, need I say more? Bill Clinton, serial sexual exploiter, right? And according to Michelle Goldberg, a rapist, right? Who she wrote that she believed that Bill Clinton raped Juanita Broderick, and she goes on Tim Russert on Meet the Press and trashes Kathleen Willey. Yeah, Anita Hill goes on Meet the Press, trashes Kathleen Willey, who had accused the president of sexual assault. Paula Jones, who had accused the president of exposing himself and kind of forcing himself on her when she was working for the state of Arkansas government, when he was the governor. Of course, Bill Clinton ended up paying a settlement to Paula Jones. But Anita Hill trashes these women and then says that when Tim Russert says, well, isn't that a double standard? And she says, we live in a political world, and sometimes the larger issues are more important than personal conduct. And I think you see that through and through with the way, I'll call it the left, those groups have used sexual harassment. Maureen Dowd admitted, in the past couple of years, I think in 2016, because I wrote about this, that the left and the feminists allowed Bill Clinton to do all these things because they liked his policies. Okay. And you saw that with Anita Hill, where she was completely silent, to my recollection, and I looked through this, on Andrew Cuomo, right? On Joe Biden, who was accused of sexual assault. She was stone cold silent for, I think, 2 or 3 weeks until the New York Times called her. She came out with this weak statement saying there should be an independent investigation into Joe Biden on these allegations. That was never done. And then guess what? She's clamoring to be part of the Biden world and wants to be an advisor to Joe Biden. And so it's all about power. It's all about weaponizing these issues, okay, that in my view, harm the true, issue of trying to stamp out sexual harassment.
I suppose the reason, I wanted to talk about this was because people out there who believe Johnny Depp now, what I'm saying is watch this space, in 10 years time, in 15 years time, in 20 years time, the script could flip. If Johnny Depp suddenly decides that he likes free speech or likes Trump or whatever he if he does a few things that annoy the left, or just has an opinion that isn't part of the script, he may see not the public support, but he may see the infrastructure of the left come against him, and Amber Heard may see herself being exalted up, and those who think that public opinion is forever solid and doesn't change, watch this space. And it happened to Clarence Thomas, and it can happen to your modern day people as well. So how is the book going?
I'll just say one thing. I'm always an optimist. So I think in the older days when, there wasn't as much social media, and that, the Johnny Depp people, right, and it's a little bit different than Supreme Court justice, will push back against whatever those narratives are trying to be. But I agree with you, Phelan. We saw it happen with Justice Thomas. It's horrible. That's why I wanted this movie to be made, and now this book, and to kind of get back out there with the life of Clarence Thomas, and also to talk about the Anita Hill hearings, because I think they were not true. Those allegations were completely false. The American people knew it at the time, and as you said, over the years, these 30 years, they've rewritten the script, and it's despicable. But always an optimist. I'm going to try and sort of change that perception. But on the Johnny Depp one, I agree with you. You could see that coming because the left is unrelenting on driving their narrative and rewriting history, and they're very good at it. And so I'm glad you're focusing, and I do think there's this connection of, uh, um, a moment in time when people all get to watch and come to a conclusion, and then does it change over time, and does history get rewritten to the left's kind of satisfaction. The book, so the book is a follow-on to the movie that came out in 2020 called Created Equal. Clarence Thomas, in his own words, it was based on the movie was shown on PBS and was in theaters. It was based on 25 hours of interviews with Justice Thomas, and it was a 2-hour movie. So when Michael Pack made the movie, he's the producer, the director. I helped him with it. I was in all the interviews. When the movie was getting made, I saw all these great exchanges with Justice Thomas just get cut away because you got 2 hours and there's 25 hours of film. So after that all got done and I had some time, I thought this would be a great opportunity to gather up all those, sort of extra, hours of footage and put it into a book length interview. So that's what's going on with the book. And it's got a great reception, and it's a great way to learn a lot more about Justice Thomas in a way where you can just open up the book and read about different parts of his life, as opposed to kind of a movie. You watch the movie, it's a great movie. But this is something that can be on your bookshelf. Yeah.
The documentary is amazing, and you can see it on Amazon. But the book is fantastic too, because you can open it up and you can read about, go to his childhood, go to his views on this, go to his views on that. I love the way it's in sections. It's little quotes. It's quotes of his opinions on various matters. It's a great way of getting to see inside Clarence Thomas's large brain, which is always worth it. I mean, but whatever you say about Clarence Thomas, he's incredibly brave. And you even see that in the Roe versus Wade decision, the Dobbs decision there. I mean, he could have went with the majority, and because going with the majority was a pretty radical thing to do. Going with that, overturning Roe v. Wade was a massive thing. He went one step further and said, if we are overturning Roe, which is based on nothing, it's based on politics, then surely we should look at all the other judgments that are based on politics. I suppose they're based on a cultural movement rather than, I'm probably misquoting him, but they're not based on anything constitutional. And he went that bit further. And to me, that showed his bravery, in the sense he wasn't going to compromise his belief in the Constitution just so that for an easy life. Am I quoting him correctly? Am I describing the situation correctly?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think that justice on all of these opinions, and we can talk about Dobbs in a second, but all of these opinions on the Second Amendment, on the religious freedom, even on the EPA case, what's called the administrative state cases, Justice Thomas has been writing on all of these areas for 30 years. And what probably most of your viewers don't realize is Justice Thomas writes the most opinions of any justice year in and year out. Like 3 times the number of opinions that other justices write. And what he's doing is he's laying down his vision of the Constitution, faithful to the Constitution, and having a record of a sort of how it should be done properly. And it's just an incredible amount of work. But now it's 30 years later. He's got this incredible body of work that you can look back on and look for the way on, this area or that area. And what Justice Thomas did, and the other thing he did is, I think, with his sort of, bravery to apply the Constitution come what may, right? My job is to faithfully apply the Constitution, not substitute my judgments or what I think the American people want. What does the Constitution provide for the original meaning of the Constitution? And I think that even in the majority opinion in Dobbs, Justice Thomas showed the way for these newer justices to be brave and to be bold and not to be mealy-mouthed about when you're looking at precedent and what should we do here, and are we going to try and thread the needle somehow and get through it without being too bold and upsetting people. No, the way he's done his opinions over the years, and also his just personal courage, right? And that kind of came out in terms of always being under attack. And then with the leak of the Dobbs opinion, I think all the justices should be commended for not buckling and staying strong. On Dobbs, what Justice Thomas did was, he could have kept that opinion to himself. He was the senior justice in that majority. He could have written it, right? Gave it to Sam Alito. he wanted to make the point that substantive due process, which is what Roe v. Wade was based upon, which if you think about it, and what Justice Thomas, you see this in the book, it's the meaning of words and the violence done to the term due process in the 14th Amendment. Due process means you have a process. It doesn't mean it's a right. It means if you do things properly, you can do X, right? And so what the left has done is come up with this term substantive due process that says it's a right. You can't take it away. So a right to an abortion. And so he went through all of these opinions that are based on substantive due process. And he says, those are all wrong. There might be a right to it somewhere else in the Constitution, but this is a lie about what's, the meaning kind of what substantive due process is. And that's what he wanted. That's what he said to revisit. So all those cases are on a faulty premise, and they should be revisited.
Yeah, and I don't want to put words in his mouth. He's not saying that something should be, that gay marriage should be outlawed. He's not saying that all these things should be outlawed. He's saying the idea that there's a constitutional right to them in this current constitution based on this due process clause is a fallacy, is not correct, and for the good of truth and for the good of the honesty of the nation, it shouldn't be allowed to stand. And I suppose it goes back to the EPA decision. Stop allowing other agencies, Congress, be courageous, pass these laws if you really believe them. Stop passing the buck and loaning out your credibility to agencies and to the Supreme Court.
Great point, Phelan. And yeah, that's Justice Thomas talks about kind of the structure of the Constitution and the separation of powers, and what's called the administrative state cases, where Congress has passed these vague laws that the agencies then, as a practical matter, become the judicial, legislative, and executive. And the whole point of our Constitution was to separate out those powers. And as a practical matter, and in maybe an unconstitutional way, they have coalesced these powers into these agencies. And so that's the EPA case we were just talking about, which was, I think, a Gorsuch opinion that is saying you can't do that. And so all of these cases is not Justice Thomas or the other justices saying, this is what I think is the right policy choice. Do I think abortion, should be legal, or is it wrong, or gay marriage? It's what is in the Constitution, right? What he says in the book is, when you start doing that and you start putting in your own preferences, you distort the Constitution, and it has this ripple effect on a lot of other things, as you look at that Constitution. So that's why he, I think, invited the court to go back and look at these other ones, because they're based on faulty premises of so-called substantive due process, which he's been writing on for 30 years. And so he wrote alone, right? And again, Justice Thomas is fiercely independent. And that's the other thing you get from the book, is that, and I think when you read the book, and even kind of going through life, when he talks about stare decisis, he makes this reference to, like, when he was in Holy Cross. He went to Holy Cross College for college, and everyone, all the black students were supposed to like Hugh Masekela, who was this great jazz musician. You have to like him. And Clarence Thomas is like, why do I have to like him? I don't have anything against him, but don't tell me who I'm going to listen to. And then he sort of makes this kind of jump to stare decisis. Why do I have to go along with that opinion? Why? Do I have to stop thinking? People say Roe v. Wade is, super precedent. Stop thinking, apply it. Wrong thing to do with Clarence Thomas. And you see it come through in terms of how he's lived his life, and as he thinks as a justice, those life lessons, and how he reacts to the idea of, no, you can't change that, because, and of course, he's a man, right, who, remember, one of the cases he cites in that concurrence in Dobbs, in terms of substantive due process and how, like, dangerous it is Roger Taney's decision in Dred Scott, right, which is before the 14th Amendment. But he essentially says, even though the Union had passed the law that said if a slave had escaped and gotten up to the north, they were free, right? And Roger Taney came along and says, no. This slave owner has, a substantive due process right, essentially, to that person. A despicable opinion, but he cites it as, people can apply their own. When you let unelected judges come up with the rights that they like, that's dangerous. And in that case, it was was utterly dangerous and despicable. And so he, in my view, he's letting the left know, you like your rights. Look at this.
Well, on that note, I mean, it's good to end to the warning that this is dangerous. It's good to end on that because people need to know that. So the book is called Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words.
Yeah, co-edited with Michael Pack.
And available at all bookstores, Amazon, etc. Thank you very much, Mark, and thank you for giving us your time, and we hope to have you on again soon.
Thanks, Dalen. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Right. Well, a warning for Mr. Depp there, a warning for us all, and a warning for people to not believe the media anymore, because at the time, as we say, everyone believed Clarence Thomas, no one believed Anita Hill, and now you would think that almost like those hearings didn't happen and that there was just a slam dunk.
I think it's worth saying not everyone, obviously Anita Hill had plenty of her own supporters who continue to believe that she was telling the truth. But I think there was a lot of skepticism because of the fact that there were so many holes in her story. Yeah. What an amazing man, what a national treasure Clarence Thomas is. Yes. And of course, everyone is aware of the kind of horrible behavior of these pro-abortion activists who are out there to destroy him and maybe do him bodily harm, actually. And he's just a brave and great soul and a wonderful, obviously a very dear friend of Mark Paoletta. And we're very good friends of Ginny Thomas, his wife, who is just a wonderful, wonderful sweetheart and just a great American. Anyway, I thought this story film was so funny. Yes. I read this headline on Reuters, by the way, this next story, and I just thought, you've got to be kidding me. Really nothing surprises me anymore. And I just love this headline. So basically, here's the headline from Reuters this last couple of days. EU Parliament backs labelling gas and nuclear investments as green.
Fracking gas.
So now they're going to have fracking gas is green and nuclear is green. And the vote, this was put forward about a month ago in the EU Parliament, and all kinds of consternation, all kinds of opposition from the kind of greeny activisty types. But they've lost, and the people, the side that's won is pragmatism, yes. Where people have said, well, you know what, I don't want to face my electorate. I don't want to go back to my country where my people will freeze to death, yes. Because we have so demonized natural gas. We've so demonized nuclear power. So this is
the lights are going to go out.
The lights are going to go out, and people are going to freeze to death. By the way, I'm still worried that people are going to freeze to death in Europe.
They totally are.
Because of mad policies. But anyway, it's a kind of a very big win for, as I said, for pragmatism. But it's not over, though, because plenty of countries in Europe are just up in arms. By the way, and don't know what to do with themselves.
I don't know if we're covering that, but the Sri Lanka story is
amazing. And it brings us on to talk about what's happening in Sri Lanka, which is unbelievable. Yeah. So, you'll have seen these photos, and this is amazing and really interesting about journalism. You'll have seen all of these riots in Sri Lanka, and the president's palace overrun, and the parliament, they set fire to the prime minister's home. The prime minister and the president is about to resign in these days as you listen to this. Yeah. And what's really interesting is, if you go reading about this Sri Lankan story and you hear all about the protests and people and whatever,
prices
and the rising price, and there's nothing to eat and people haven't been paid and they're sending people home from the civil service. One thing that you might find really hard to find is why all this is happening. Mm-hmm. And you might find a few outlets saying COVID, but actually none of that's true. It's not at all about COVID. And Bjorn Lomborg, actually writing in Business Day, has written a really good piece. Actually, it's worth you looking at the whole thing. And he's basically saying,
in 2021,
this is Bjorn Lomborg.
The government enforced a full transition to organic farming.
Full transition.
And appointed organic gurus as agricultural advisors, including some who claim dubious links between chemicals and health problems. So they basically made Sri Lanka fully organic, stopped using banned fertilizer.
Yeah, but instead of using the highly productive synthetic fertilizer that's created from using natural gas, they used organic fertilizer. Now, do you think I know anything about farming? I know enough about farming to know that using organic fertilizer will reduce the yield.
Yes.
Really, who doesn't know that? However, nobody in Sri Lanka who was in charge knew that or cared. Yeah. And the result has been the only best word, I'm just seeing Bjorn Lomborg use the word absolute misery. Misery. With food prices have quadrupled. Inflation has gone up by 50%. It's a really sad story. And I'm just looking here. Listen to this from Bjorn Lomborg again, who's very good, obviously, on this sort of stuff. Sri Lanka had been self-sufficient in rice production for decades, but tragically has now been forced to import $450 million worth of rice. Can you believe this? This is the craziness of the green agenda, which doesn't think through the consequences of their crazy actions. The people are literally starving to death.
Even Sri Lanka was short of tea. Like tea, Sri Lanka is known across the world for tea. You know, and he says Sri Lanka's organic experiment failed fundamentally because of one simple fact. It does not have enough land to replace synthetic nitrogen fertilizer with animal manure. To shift to organics and keep production, it would need 5 to 7 times more manure than the total amount of manure available today.
And by the way, just on that point, so really this is exactly, so just so you know, this is what the story in Sri Lanka is all about. It's a green nightmare. It's a created crisis, which shouldn't have been created. And by the way, for anyone sitting back on your laurels thinking that's grand, this is coming to a town near you because the fact that natural gas is not being exploited, natural gas is where this synthetic fertilizer comes from, that has made the whole world rich, that has made the whole world have lovely, yummy food. The lack of production and the lack of investment in this natural gas is devastating to the food supply. A lot of people don't make that connection. So the natural gas has a massive impact on food supply, not alone on heating.
Can I just say something? It's coming to a blue state near you, but if you live in a red state, don't rest on your laurels. We're talking about a red state like Texas, where the lights went out, where they favored renewables, the windmills and the other things, the solar panels, over oil and gas in Texas, and led to massive blackouts just a year or two ago. So don't think that you're immune to this.
You're not immune to this. Yeah, I mean, and that's, you know, that very, if it can happen in Texas, it literally can happen anywhere. I'm disgusted by Texas and by their behavior and how they allowed their population to become that vulnerable, you know, just appalling. We're coming to the end of the show, but I just wanted to bring you this, a couple of little mad stories. One that I just saw the other day. So Gavin Newsom went on holidays. Where did he go on holidays, Phelim? Now, where did he go on holidays?
Actually, Montana. It's a lovely
Why would
place.
he go? Why would he be? Now,
because it's beautiful.
Of course it is. And he's got the relatives there, you see. He's got relatives in Montana. However, the state of California have a travel ban for state employees, basically. You can't go to be doing state business at all of any kind in Montana because they just don't have the nicest attitude to the LGBTQXYZ whatevers.
RSPV.
Yeah. So, and this is coming, I don't know where I got this story from, but it's everywhere. But California governor is vacationing Montana despite his state banning state-funded travel there due to the anti-LGBTQ policies.
We know he's got form in this. He went into the French Laundry and had a meal while he was banning everyone else from having meals indoors. So and he was met with I wonder, is he holidaying with some lobbyists this time? So we're coming to the end of the show. I'm still broken with one broken wing here. These broken wings. Just to remember then, like, what's really important here is please share the True Crime Podcast. Go to serialkillerpod.com and grab that link and send it out as a text message, because if you send it out, it's great to send these out as a text message because the person immediately has the podcast on their phone and they can listen, and you can listen in the car, share it. We love you guys, and you send such nice messages to us. This is really easy for you to do, and it's free. And then the second thing to say to you is, I know we've promised this so many times, we are coming with really great news about the Hunter Biden movie that will make you very, very happy. Excited. And it's happening very, very soon. Okay. So until next week, thanks a million, everybody. Thanks, guys. Bye.